Bling blong, Grubermeisters. If you ask me for a show that was ahead of its time, my go-to answer will always be Mission Hill.
I've never been depressed like this before.
Well, welcome to the real world, sucker!
The intricately detailed and just downright fascinating art design, the cool yet sparingly unhinged animation that is matched by a wild soundscape, the writing that still remains witty and relevant to this day.
A true artist would rather starve. Take care of that, will you, babe?
And the superb voice acting. So how did this immensely brilliant cartoon fall so far off the radar and leave a scarring impact on its creators? This is what happened to Mission Hill. And today's video is sponsored by Ren. Stay tuned in to hear more about them. Why don't I give an overview of the cartoon for all the lay people out there that don't know what I'm talking about? Mission Hill is a 1999 American animated sitcom that follows 24-year-old aspiring cartoonist Andy French, along with his sheltered and rather nerdy late teenage brother, Kevin French.
Ow! Crap! You did that on purpose, you little creep!
Well, your big feet were in the way. Mom, he said crap.
The pilot episode sees Kevin having to move in with Andy to his loft in the big city of Cosmopolis. The usual odd couple dynamic comes into play here. Andy being the lackadaisical yet cool rebel who hasn't found much success with his art. In the meantime, he works his days at the waterbed store and tries to swindle any girl he finds remotely attractive into bed.
There's nothing I wouldn't do for Kevin.
Kevin, on the other hand, is a hardworking, preppy, and hopelessly naive mama's boy with his eyes set on Yale University.
Weirdy's father was the co-inventor of the H-bomb. Imagine what getting a college recommendation from him would do for your shot at Yale.
He acts superior to his older brother, but whether Kevin wants to admit it or not, he admires Andy's swagger.
Who wants to get it on with the Grubermeister?
They also have a dog, Stokey. He is very, very dumb. Oh, who's a dumb boy? You are. Yes, you are. One of the loft mates is Jim Kubak, Andy's best friend from high school. Aside from being a tall drink of water, Jim is also a man of few words. He's a chill, go-with-the-flow sort of guy, but don't be fooled because we have an unexpected genius trope at play here.
Hey, they trust me because they're all old and don't know better.
I get it. They're old, so really simple computer stuff impresses them.
Exactly. It's like, whoa, high-res Photoshop batch compositing blows my mind. Let's have Jim handle it.
Right.
I call it a trope, but characters like Spud from American Dragon Jake Long or Shikamaru from Naruto are my favorite characters from those shows, so I guess it's a trope I shamelessly like. With that said, Jim is my favorite character from the show, which is insane because I love a lot of the characters. Last of the roomies is Posey Tyler, aka the flower child with an Ed and Eddie style hairdo.
But Stogie, there are dark forces at work within him.
She's friends with Andy and Jim too. Nothing romantic though. Posey's a bit of an anti-capitalist, anti-conformist, but doesn't always practice what she preaches.
Oh wow, that's a great idea. I was going to give them to charity, but where is the fun in that? I want to make some money.
Don't think she's that basic though. Posey's a mega boss bitch when she needs to be. Moving on, let's discuss their neighbors. There's Gus and Wally, the 60-something married gay couple.
May I at least ask what happened?
Nah, some punk attacked me on the bridge. Threw him over. Great piccolo sandwich, honey.
And for 1999, this was incredibly progressive, but I'll talk more about that later. The one with the eyes like Brock from Pokemon would be Gus. Gus is a brawny, stoic man you would assume was a veteran. He does have a rather short fuse though, often arguing and bickering with his husband, Wally. Additionally, he runs a diner where many scenes in Mission Hill take place. Wally, on the other hand, is a soft-spoken and self-conscious man with a love of the fine arts. He's actually based on British actor David Niven, and this is referenced a good amount in the show.
Nice linen suit. That's a thing. Like David Niven used to wear.
Oh, David Niven, David Niven, David Niven, he is all you ever talk about!
Shifting neighbors, there's Carlos Hernandez Leibowitz and Natalie Leibowitz Hernandez. Try saying that 5 times fast. Natalie is a Jewish mother in her late 20s and a women's studies professor who values political correctness to the extreme!
To Andy French, capitalist pig.
And that's why their names are culturally respectful of both of their heritages. Natalie and Carlos are considered marital partners, and their baby is simply referred to as Baby Nameless. Our boy Carlos is a Hispanic stay-at-home dad who works on paintings in his free time, to which he has no style. He has no grace. I'm sorry I had to do it. Another important main character we're missing is the love interest Gwen. She works with Andy at the waterbed store and actually right off the bat likes him. It's not too long before they become an on-again, off-again situation, but it's all justified. Gwen simply wishes that Andy would pursue a more serious relationship with her, put in some effort, and well, not sleep with other women would be a dandy start. Running the waterbed store, by the way, is Ron, the sleazy, oafish, vaguely Eastern European rageaholic.
No more excuses. Stop ruining my business. And smile, damn you!
Imagine Buck Strickland from King of the Hill, but angrier, brazener, and European-near. Kevin may not have any friends his age living with him, but that's why he's got two, count 'em, two school pals, both being just as geek-tacular as Kevin himself. Toby Mundorf is a gentle giant. Scratch that, a feeble giant. The dude is quivering most of the time he says anything. He's also got a helicopter mom. Moving over to George Bang, he's a sarcastic, docile geek with very muted emotions.
Hey, R2, how's it going?
Boop, deet, deet.
His dad runs a corner store that George works at after school. George's dad is a whole character on his own, being a stark contrast to who his son is. Mission Hill does a great job at making even the smallest side characters feel like real people we're bumping into and not just punchlines waiting to be said. And yet they're still really funny. I suppose that's subjective, but I think they're really funny. Now that I've explained Mission Hill and its characters, I want to talk about the people behind the show. My video on the oblongs proved to me that the juiciest pieces of history will come from the mouth of the show's creator. Or in this case, creators. They are Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein. If you watched the show before, you'll probably recognize those names from the production role.
Bill Oakley, Josh Weinstein production.
Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein are American television writers and producers from Washington, D.C. They met each other at St. Albans Preparatory School when they were in 8th grade. At the school, they became best friends and created a humor magazine together called The Alban Antic. This was inspired by Mad Magazine. The two would part ways, though, once they embarked off to college. Oakley went to Harvard University, while Weinstein went to Stanford. The former even stood as the vice president of the Harvard Lampoon, which is a university comedy publication. Both writers were seemingly on the path of great success, yet after graduating university, neither one of them really had much luck landing a job. Each tried pitching spec scripts to Saturday Night Live and Late Night with David Letterman. Spec scripts, by the way, are unsolicited scripts written for the purpose of getting purchased by the actual show, you know, like test scripts, but none of them were picked up. Separately, the two men tucked their tails between their legs and headed home. Back in DC, Bill Oakley had found a job doing promotional work for America's Most Wanted, so at least it was in the ballpark for what he actually wanted to do. Josh Weinstein got a job as a copywriter for an advertising agency writing print ads. He was more in the parking lot of the ballpark. Simultaneously, Oakley and Weinstein were rekindling their working partnership. They began writing for local comedy groups, really building up their resume any way that they could. And a year of grinding would pay off since they would be hired to write for a game show in New York City on Ha. Ha was a premium television channel focused on comedy that only ran April 1st, 1990 to April 1st, 1991. In case that ever comes up on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for you. In New York, Oakley and Weinstein would write for the National Lampoon and Spy, more satire magazines. An editor for Spy was then hired by NBC to run Sunday Best, which was a variety show in Los Angeles. Taking a liking to Oakley and Winey, this editor would bring them along with him to work on the show. America just didn't take to liking Sunday Best, so it only lasted 3 episodes. Oakley and Weinstein were now stuck in California, jobless. And this is how they would remain for roughly the next year as they tried finding their footing in this new environment. The creative duo would revert to writing spec scripts, and one of them would actually get a bite this time. Sort of. A spec they wrote for Seinfeld was liked by a lot of the kinds of people that you want liking a script, just none of them from Seinfeld. But the showrunners of The Simpsons were among them, and they seek to work with Bill and Josh. There wasn't an official job opening as a writer, but they were still hired to write 1 episode for season 4, Marge Gets a Job. The episode was well received, and with season 5, Oakley and Weinstein would be joining The Simpsons writing staff. This is where they were introduced to Matt Groening. If you don't know who Matt Groening is, yes you do. You may not know how to spell this guy's name, but you definitely know of him in some way. He created The Simpsons, Futurama, and many other highly successful shows. I'm not about to go into an ultra deep dive on him, but I think his resume alone stands as evidence for Groening's talent and resilience. He entered the entertainment industry as a powerhouse and has hardly lost momentum since. So when Oakley and Weinstein met Groening, it's no surprise they were unabashedly inspired by his passion and drive. He was like an early creative role model for them, and that's a pretty good thing since, you know, he was their boss. It's like they'd struck gold with these jobs on The Simpsons. They had no idea. Our two protagonists worked on The Simpsons from season 5 to 8. After season 6, the show needed someone to replace the showrunners since they liked changing it up every 2 years. Oakley and Weinstein were hesitant to throw their two-man hat into the ring due to a more senior competing colleague, Conan O'Brien. But in 1993, he would be appointed the new host of Late Night, leaving Bill and Josh the most experienced candidates for the position. So seasons 7 and 8 of The Simpsons saw them both acting as the showrunners and executive producers. During their time on The Simpsons, they produced some of the most critically acclaimed episodes of the program, won 3 Emmy Awards, and created the classic meme, steamed hams. However, after showrunning for 2 seasons, the pattern of The Simpsons would continue, and the duo would step down from the job in 1997. Oakley and Weinstein felt they had cut their teeth enough on someone else's show and wanted to create one of their own. And as they put it, around this time in the late 90s, everyone was getting their own adult animated show. Networks saw the massive accolades of The Simpsons and wanted to emulate that. The only problem was few cartoons could manage it. So a light bulb would go off for Oakley and Weinstein. We literally worked on The Simpsons. Why don't we pitch them a show? So for the next 2 years, they would be dedicatedly working on a show to pitch. Welcome to Mission Hill. Coming off from working on The Simpsons, the last thing Bill and Josh wanted to do was create a show to compete with it. And their inside knowledge of The Simpsons actually allowed them to identify an age demographic that The Simpsons failed to acknowledge much. Late teens and early 20-something-year-olds. Given the time, though, they would be considered Gen Xers. Thus, the inception of the show spawned from an idea to cater to this audience. That's why Andy and his friends are in their early 20s, while Kevin and his cohorts are preparing to go to college. The plotlines explored were also tailored to be specific to that demographic, such as the SATs, unemployment, and when a boy discovers manipulating himself. Even the outliers to this age group rule, Gus and Wally, are an age group that's not often explored seriously, the retirement years of your 60s. Old people in The Simpsons, for instance, were either of parent age of the late 30s or 40s, or you were just an elderly old fart who could croak at any moment. Aside from just hitting that audience blind spot, the writing for the show was on point. If I had to describe the show's writing in one word, it would be Kafka-esque.
Why is that funny?
Watch the show and you'll get what I mean. A few noteworthy members of the writing staff would be Dan McGrath of The Simpsons, King of the Hill, and Gravity Falls, Aaron Ehasz, the head writer for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Andrew Kreisberg, even though he's probably not finding much work now. The comedy is damn good, whether it's the blatantly written jokes or just the physical comedy. Aside from a few of the dated references, a ton of the humor is still relatable and even remains current.
I'm glad I'm paying for satellite instead of health insurance.
Somehow. This show was made over 20 years ago and it feels current? You see what I mean when I say that Mission Hill was ahead of its time. Like, this kiss you're seeing now was actually the first gay male kiss ever broadcast on television, not just animated. And the show doesn't simply use the fact that Gus and Wally were gay as a cheap punchline like Family Guy or South Park can do, especially when it came to their earlier representation of LGBTQ characters. Gay representation was mainly relegated to being stereotypical on those other shows, but on Mission Hill, Gus and Wally were fully fleshed out three-dimensional characters who also happen to be gay.
And you know who else is great? You big homo!
That is a hurtful term. Please stop using it or I will be forced to clobber you.
This positive portrayal of a gay relationship even scored the show an award from GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Besides the comedy, the writing structure and plot composition felt like it was from the future. Going against the standard expectation of having a cartoon reset following every episode, Mission Hill actually utilized continuity and character arcs. The showrunners imagined that about every 8th episode, Andy would get a new job. The audience would actually witness his progression in life, as well as Kevin as he graduated high school and went off to college. On a smaller level, there would be jokes in later episodes of the show that would only be fully understood had you seen previous episodes. One example is how there's a whole episode where Kevin accidentally burns down a store after trying to hide the fact that he was manipulating himself. A few episodes later, one of the school bullies sees Kevin driving a nice car and asks if he bought it with the money from his donations to the Spank Bank. Brilliant! Oakley and Weinstein took the tricks that made The Simpsons flow smoothly and applied them to their show. The writer's room was nearly congruent with how it constructed an episode's story. All the writers would collaborate on an outline for what would take place, but unlike The Simpsons, which would have the writers arduously sit around and formulate each line of dialogue together, after the outline was conceived, the writer assigned to the episode would go and work to finish the first draft on their own. Oakley and Weinstein would then take care of the rewrite. After the rewrite, whichever lines still weren't punchy enough would be assigned to the rest of the writers to come up with a few other possibilities. This left Oakley and Weinstein with an unusual overflow of comedic material. That's why every joke in Mission Hill is treated with the utmost care, no matter how obscure.
He uses it to drown out distractions. I should have mentioned it to you when he moved in.
Bling, bling, blong, 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 bling, blong, bling.
Fun fact about Bling Blong, the idea for Kevin to say this as he solves math equations actually came from a real kid one of the creators knew. He would do this very same thing, and they thought this oddity deserved to be immortalized. I can't help but to agree. Another aspect that made the show unique was the art design. That's credited to the phenomenal artist, Lauren McMullen. McMullen is an artist Oakley and Weinstein have known since their college years. They didn't go to the same colleges, but the three still hung out and had Mission Hill type experiences together. As friends, they respectfully admired her art. McMullen didn't have much experience under her belt, but the men trusted her to lead up the art design for Mission Hill. And this trust would pay off tenfold. Perhaps not financially, but definitely in lasting creative quality. Just look at those frames! This show had pizzazz! The palette mixture of cool and neon colors infused the city with vibrant life. The hit pop art backgrounds even made establishing shots fun to watch. Interesting fact, Mission Hill was the last animated program to utilize watercolor backgrounds. The animators of the show attest that the neon colors I mentioned don't even translate perfectly from animation cell to the silver screen. So apparently the physical stills look even more dazzling. Man, what I would pay to get my hands on one of those. The variety of visuals accomplished giving Cosmopolis the feel of a diverse, clustered cityscape. The animation was usually grounded and down to earth, similar to King of the Hill, but could occasionally turn rubber hose when it felt naughty. You know, throw it back to those old classic cartoons. McMullen cites comics like 8-Ball as her inspirations. Another feature I appreciated in Mission Hill was the use of what I call emotional punctuation. This kind of gag. I felt the emotional punctuation was used the perfect amount and gave the show its own personality. Characters would literally stare daggers or have hearts floating out of their pants. Oakley, Weinstein, and McMullen have been transparent about their inspirations coming from alternative comics, especially that of Harvey Kurtzman and Will Elder. For the city of Cosmopolis, the trio were influenced by various big cities like Portland, Oregon, Wicker Park in Chicago, and Mission Hill, Boston. From the behind-the-scenes content, we can really see how much effort went into building up Mission Hill. I haven't worked on a syndicated show, so maybe this amount of work is normal, but from listening to those who worked on the show talk about the process, it's obvious that a colossal amount of love and care went into making it. Into backgrounds, into signs, into expressions, into the dog's anus.
And we also did the innovative asterisks on the butt.
When coming up with the character designs, McMullen had created 3 styles of the characters: an old-timey extra cartoonish design, an average cartoony design, and a more realistic design.
We had the more realistic Jim and Posey, and the slightly less realistic Kevin and Andy, but they were all sort of combined.
Sounds on par with the show's mixture of grounded and unrealistic elements. Ah yes, let's talk about the voice cast, because this entire ensemble knocks it out of the park. Andy is voiced by Wallace Langham.
You've never looked at pornography?
Langham is not terribly known for his voiceover roles. He's been in some Batman shows and Buzz Lightyear Star Command.
Does this make me look like a king?
His notoriety comes from appearing in sitcoms like The Larry Sanders Show and Veronica's Closet. You remember those shows? I mean, I don't, but if you're 10 years older than me, then you might. Langham did great as the show's lead, though.
Hi, I'm not sure we've met. Andy French? Couldn't care less about your education.
Andy would often be a bit of an ass, but Langham's voice made him teeter on the side of affable and not douchey. Scott Menville plays the little brother, Kevin.
A Norse slave trader approaches. What is your command? Sell Toby.
If it sounds like a nerdier Robin from Teen Titans, that's because it is.
I'm not quitting the team.
Menville has actually been a professional voice actor since he was 9 years old. Even if this voice sounds similar to another, it's amusing the way that Kevin French remains unique. Jim is voiced by stand-up comedian and actor Brian Posehn.
Ow, what happened to the couch?
We moved it over there last week, remember?
Oh, yeah.
You may know him from his voiceover as Sour Cream in Steven Universe, or perhaps from his TV roles on the Sarah Silverman program or The Big Bang Theory. But I will forever think of him as Naked Samurai Baby Man. If you know, you know.
Giant dickless baby! Swinging an ancient Japanese weapon.
The voice he does for Jim is admittedly basically his normal voice, but boy howdy does it fit. Vicki Lewis provides the voice for Posey and the voice for Natalie.
Kevin, oh my goodness, what's happened to your inner light?
Lewis voiced Deb in Finding Nemo, but her real stardom comes from starring in the NBC sitcom News Radio. On News Radio, she was performing alongside Phil Hartman, John Lovitz, Stephen Root, Andy Dick, and even Joe Smoke a Joint as Long as His Nipples Rogan. Oh yeah, Wallace Langham and Brian Posehn appeared on News Radio as well. Mission Hill is a show where Kevin moves into a loft where he's the odd man out. And the voice actors for Andy, Jim, and Posey had all worked together. That's kind of serendipitous. Gus, as well as Ron, was voiced by Nick Jameson.
Finally, a woman I can bring home to meet my mother. Mother, get out!
He's known for voicing, Sheriff Lewis in Clifford's Really Big Movie? I don't know. This guy hasn't done the most, sadly. He played the Russian president on 24, if that's your thing. It's odd this guy hasn't done more, because what's presented from him on Mission Hill rocks.
Not without these contracts, lady. Now, you got legal ownership of some confetti. Happy New Year.
To express emotion by a character who actively tries to suppress his emotions can be tricky. You don't want to be monotone like Jim, but you can't be too expressive or else the outburst won't hit as hard. Kudos to Jameson's Gus, especially since he was acting off who is considered one of the most iconic voice actors of our time. Yep, Thomas Kennedy, the legendary voice of SpongeBob as well as many other wonderful animated beings. And this Geppetto, and this Pinocchio. He does Wally.
Don't fuss. We've got to get you to a hospital.
Go to a hospital, doctors always find something wrong with you.
If he doesn't have trepidation dripping out of his voice, Wally's probably screaming at his lover in the hilarious way Kenny just nails.
I don't like my personal life to be everybody's business.
The voice of Carlos Hernandez Leibowitz is Herbert Singüenza. He's an actor, writer, and visual artist.
This is my work. I'm a painter. Okay, I see your point. But you have to see my point too, that this isn't work.
While not a hugely prolific voice actor, Singüenza likes to pursue theater projects such as his solo show, My Weekend with Pablo Picasso, which featured him painting. I see how he could relate to Carlos.
Yeah, I frosted each one in a different style. Cubist, Dada, Russian constructivist.
Thanks for helping out with the food. Really appreciate it.
Musician, singer, and songwriter Jane Weedland voices Gwen.
Okay, but just so we're clear, you want your freedom to sleep around because you're not ready for something serious, right?
Yes, exactly. Where are you going?
Oh, I'm looking for something serious.
Hey, no fair! You tricked me!
She's the rhythm guitarist and backing vocalist for the new wave band The Go-Go's. Oakley and Weinstein were already interested in The Go-Go's music for their show, so getting a singer to play one of their characters was a bonus. There's even a reference to the band in the show's background. And I think Saberspark mentioned to me that he actually had a crush on Gwen. This rocker chick is even Dusk from the Hex Girls, so pay your respects, simps. Last of the actors we need to bring up have been under our noses the whole time. Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein played George Bang and Toby Mundorf, respectively. They'd never done voices on The Simpsons since they said writers didn't usually cross over that line, but watching shows like King of the Hill, Family Guy, and South Park using their creators' voices encouraged them to do the same. Josh Weinstein's voice for Toby was what you'd expect, but the shakiness that exudes from almost every word he says really makes the character next level. And Bill doing George sounds like someone acting on Downers, in a good way.
George Bang basically is me doing a Gary Shandling impression, which is not very much different than my regular voice.
The subdued emotion gets a laugh from me every time. Right, there was one celebrity guest voice. Jennifer Jason Leigh voiced the even geekier than Kevin, Eunice Yulmeyer.
Gotta go, Chimpy. Nice matching wits with you. You're a regular Maury Amsterdam.
Funny enough, the showrunners never intended on including celebrity voices in their show, especially since they were trying to keep that indie vibe. But one of the staff members was close friends with Leigh, so when she expressed interest in the show, it's not like they were going to turn down the offer. The cast just filled out the additional voices, but easily the most entertaining bit role comes from the Ewok actor Jimmy Briskin. Let me know if this sounds familiar.
I'm Jimmy Briskin. You might know me better as Ewok Villager number 2 from the hit film Return of the Jedi.
It's SpongeBob before SpongeBob. The theme song was provided by a rock band the show's creators were already a big fan of, Kate. They asked the musicians to record a song for their show, but when the rockers turned in the finished song, it was actually just an acoustic version of their already produced song, Italian Leather Sofa. It's not exactly what the guys meant, but they were more than giddy to have it be the show's anthem. A serious banger. Wanting to ensure the program appealed to their target audience, Oakley and Weinstein sought out to incorporate various types of music that the youth enjoyed, like ska and new wave bands.
We're going over to Backwash to see Silly Rabbit. They're a ska band.
A team of cool and happening peeps was formed to find these tunes. They returned with musical acts like R.E.M., Moby, Culture Club, and Gordon Lightfoot.
Gordon Lightfoot!
The soundtrack definitely made Mission Hill head-bopping entertainment. parallel to the grounded animation that would have spurts of exaggeration, the sound design peppers in classic cartoon sounds to juxtapose the chill music. Listening to the accounts, it sounds like Oakley and Weinstein attempted the insane practice of treating their employees nicely and with respect.
Josh and I were running the show. It was really fun. We had a good atmosphere. We had good working hours, and it was kind of like a little bit of a party a lot of the time.
Instead of just using a studio lot like most shows, the leaders opted to actually get their own office space out in Santa Monica, so they were on their own and had more spacious, comfortable working conditions. Employees felt so much at home that they would even sometimes spend nights in the office. And it's not like they were so tired from writing all night, it was just it felt like family there. It was basically Olive Garden. Worker morale was booming, so all the finer details that the creators wished to include would cheerfully be accepted, since everyone yearned for the show to succeed. These details would be as intricate as formulating a complete bus route and schedule for the entire city. There's never an episode about going on the bus or anything like that. That was just the kind of precise specifications required for this sensational show. Bill and Josh crafted every piece of Mission Hill to be absolutely stellar. They truly adored what they were creating and wanted their outcome to reflect their vision exactly. That would be because Mission Hill is actually a love letter to their former boss, Matt Groening. They intentionally based Andy French off Matt Groening. Andy has always been Matt. That's why the start of the show would have him as an aspiring cartoonist, and by the end of a roughly 10-season run, Andy French would become a professional animator who gets his own show. They even had plans for Kevin, with him ending up in Silicon Valley, rich, but living a boring life surrounded by printers or something. Funny enough, they actually dreamed that Andy would one day meet the characters of Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein and hate them. Which makes me think, did Matt Groening maybe not like them initially when they first met? This framing puts into perspective why so much of their heart and soul was injected into Mission Hill. It was a story for Bill and Josh's creative mentor. They cared about this thing from title card to end credit, and I do mean that literally. 2 alternative titles were created for each episode. A clean one and a dirty one. I always like thinking this as a title Kevin wrote and a title Andy wrote. And remember that end credit roll that I showed you from earlier? If the creators have had their way, they would have had a different one for every single episode.
As it turned out, we couldn't afford to do a different one for every episode, so we made 4 different ones and rotated them throughout the season, and with a kind of little joke and each actor saying our names as loudly and quickly as possible.
So let's check them out.
A Bill Oakley Josh Weinstein production!
A Bill Oakley Josh Weinstein production.
A Bill Oakley Josh Weinstein production.
A Bill Oakley Josh Weinstein production.
The company of Bill Oakley Josh Weinstein Productions was founded for the creation of Mission Hill. Although in a move I highly respect, Oakley and Weinstein decided to make the symbol for their company the initials WOM, standing for Weinstein, Oakley, and McMullen, since their art designer, Lauren McMullen, had been such an integral part of the show. What a class act from those two.
And there's the special WOM signature.
Yes, Weinstein, Oakley, McMullen. That was going to be on all the merchandise that you never saw.
So rip the Band-Aid off already. This video is called The Fall of Mission Hill. What went wrong? And now, how about a quick word from today's sponsor, Wren. If you have a little bit of Posey Tyler in you, then you likely care about the state of the environment. But it's not always the easiest thing to lower your impact. That's where Wren.co comes in. Wren is a simple and effective way to make a difference in the climate crisis. It's a website where you can calculate your carbon footprint, then offset it by funding various carbon reduction projects like tree planting, mineral weathering, and rainforest protection. By answering a few questions about your lifestyle, you can find out more about your carbon footprint and how to reduce it. Your carbon footprint can't be zero, although you can offset what you have left after reducing it. Once you sign up to make a monthly contribution, you receive updates from projects you're supporting. You get to see what your money is spent on, with photos and details on every tree planted, every acre reforested, and every ton of carbon offset. I especially thought the project to get clean cooking fuel for refugees in Uganda was interesting, and it was really cool to read into how exactly that process happened. Anyways, offset your carbon footprint on Wren. The first 100 people who sign up using the link in the description will have 10 extra trees planted in their name, and Posey will give you a free massage for that. Now, back to the video. In 1999, the show would get picked up by the WB. Oh, so it's the WB's fault again, just like with the Oblongs. Oh, was it a bunch of corporate bigwig meddling? Actually, no. You see, the WB had only been broadcasting since 1995, so it wasn't fully developed as a TV station yet. They were still figuring out their identity. When this newbie network signed on the former Simpsons showrunners, they let them go wild. It was the first adult cartoon on the network as well. For the most part, the WB had a laissez-faire attitude about the show. They let Bill and Josh run the project their own way. So from 1997 to 1999, the Mission Hill staff labored away, And in the background, the problems would stack up. First off, Mission Hill wasn't originally titled Mission Hill. Its birth name was the Downtowners. Unfortunately, they altered the title after MTV announced a similarly titled cartoon, Downtown. Thus, Mission Hill. I'm curious if this influenced them making the episode Andy versus the Real World.
The Viacom Corporation holds all rights to your life.
My life?
Yes. Now get back in there and start living it, preferably in a charismatic and troublemaking manner.
Aside from that, remember how the WB was trying to figure out their identity? Well, they discovered it, and their identity is... Teen Girls. Buffy the Vampire Slayer debuted in 1997 with its spin-off show Angel debuting the same year as Mission Hill in 1999. In 1998, Dawson's Creek also premiered with a boost in ratings for the network, further encasing the WB as the Teen Girls Network, as Bill Oakley puts it.
And their niche was they're going to be the teenage girl network, because Buffy took off like a rocket. And then it was like, we're going to have Buffy, we're going to have Charm, we're going to have Popular, we're going to have all these shows, Roswell, that's nothing but 1 hour shows that are about teenage girls and the teenage girls like. And we were like, oh, this is not going the way that we had hoped.
The WB, thinking that they hadn't screwed over Mission Hill enough yet, stepped in to mess up advertising. They sent out a 2-minute promotional video that didn't exactly give the best representation of the show. And because of how detailed the show was, no episodes were finished in time for any journalists to get a sneak peek before it aired. This left the only impression reviewers had of the show for a while as that promo clip. And because the reception to this promo was tepid, the WB subsequently spent very little money to hype up the show any harder. There was also a thing with the WB having fewer primetime hours than normal networks, which means their own adult programming couldn't be shown as often for some reason. I don't really know. This is why cable is a dying medium. Oakley and Weinstein could see trouble brewing, so they tried to tackle it head on. They demanded the network to air Mission Hill right after Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Surely a Mission Hill would appeal somewhat to teen girls, they thought. Vastly incorrect. Mission Hill premiered to drastically lower numbers than expected. Now the suits began to panic. Having sunk so much money into acquiring Mission Hill, they didn't want to lose out on their investment. It had to work! So the executives swapped around episodes, and instead of the original episode 2, Annie joins the PTA, or Great Sexpectations, showing, we got Kevin's Problem, or Porno for Pyro. The creators believed this was an attempt to be like, hey, look girls, this show is sexy! This attempt failed nonetheless. And after only showing 2 of the 13 episodes of Mission Hill, the show that Bill Oakley, Josh Weinstein, Lauren McMullen, and all those other creatives had been clamoring away at for years, was pulled from the air. 2 episodes. Sure, the WB brought them back and tried making Mission Hill happen in June of 2000 when they restarted airing episodes, but the WB still did them no favors, placing them in a confusing time slot in front of the Wayans brothers, the Jamie Foxx Show, and the Steve Harvey Show. Oakley and Weinstein thought perhaps the award they had won from GLAAD and that bit of praising press would help them keep the show alive, but no luck. Mission Hill only lasted slightly longer this time, having 5 more episodes air before the plug was pulled completely. When Mission Hill halted production, the entire staff, writers, animators, voice actors, they were all busy working on the next season. The WB believed in Mission Hill, right up until the ratings arrived. Under the impression that they had their own Simpsons on their hands, the executives of the WB had already ordered 5 episodes for season 2 of Mission Hill, on top of the 13 that they had already ordered for season 1. So the failure of Mission Hill frankly caught everyone involved off guard.
Called us on the phone. And they were like, so guys, hey, we want to talk to you, Bill and Josh, from the speakerphone. And someone came into their office while they were talking to us and said, so we're pulling, we're canceling Mission Hill, right? And they were like, shut up. They hadn't told us yet.
Interestingly enough, one of those unproduced episodes has a full animatic with a voiceover available to watch online. There's another partial animatic, but the rest is just scripts. That's how awkward the shutdown was. If you do want a tad bit of extra Mission Hill content though, go check them out. Gives you a good idea of where the show could have gone too.
Yay! I won! We're going to Grandma's! Na, 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 na.
The creators admit that the fault wasn't solely on the network. I mean, it was like 90% though, come on, the show was excellent! But Oakley and Weinstein had been coddled from their time on The Simpsons, at least by the networks. The Simpsons staff actually never received any feedback or interference on their scripts from Fox during season 1, and they've repeated that pattern ever since. So unlike most shows, except for maybe South Park, The Simpsons gets created in this bubble that is unable to be penetrated by outside influence. Oakley and Weinstein foolishly interpreted this as the norm. While these men may have been geniuses at running a show, they didn't really know how to deal with network executives. Perhaps if they had had more practice dealing with networks, they could have known what to expect from the WB and prepared themselves better. I, probably like a ton of you, stumbled across this gem while watching Adult Swim. They did syndicate the show from the WB, and for probably really cheap since it had just flopped in the ratings. Without Adult Swim, and hey, Teletoon, thanks Canada, picking it up, the remaining unaired 6 episodes may have never been seen and become lost media. Similar to the Oblongs, a whole new fanbase would gradually form around Mission Hill as the episodes were reran. This is how Mission Hill would become a cult classic, with the 13 episodes being played for 7 years until being pulled in 2009. People speculate why the network wouldn't have just bought the rights to Mission Hill and carry on with the parade. To our dismay, just one Mission Hill episode cost around $1.2 million to make at the time, so the prospect of Adult Swim picking it up wasn't possible back in 2002, when original Adult Swim programming looked like...
The doctor is in.
Is that? Oh my god. Ugh.
I got this one.
Ew.
Yeah, so... If you want to own the complete Season 1 of Mission Hill for yourself, you can buy the DVD off Amazon. It even comes with some special features. There are 4 episodes that have commentary by cast and crew, as well as an interactive map, but it's a stretch to really call this thing interactive, or a map. It's really just some hidden behind-the-scenes clips that you have to click around like a Professor Layton game to find. I'm not just missing this BTS stuff though, there's a lot of interesting information about Mission Hill and its production that I incorporated into this video. Oh yeah, there's one caveat about the DVD. See, Bill and Josh already had to push really hard to convince the executives to release a complete Season 1 DVD of Mission Hill, and because there was already an uphill battle, compromises would have to be made. So most of the songs that had been picked out by Mission Hill's music team had to be pulled out and replaced in favor of cheaper copyright-free songs.
Alright! Everybody stop!
This is actually the same situation that happened with the Daria DVD. If you're a music buff though, this will tarnish your enjoyment slightly. For some reason, no streaming service has the Mission Hill episodes available for viewing. But don't fret, your old pal YouTube has you covered. Absolutely zero corporate people care so much that it can sit freely on YouTube with no alterations. Go treat yourself for 4.5 hours and watch what the Mission Hill team was able to produce in their single season. Once Mission Hill had been terminated, Oakley and Weinstein did continue to operate as a writing team. They got jobs on Matt Groening's other animated comedy, Futurama, in 2001, and stayed there for about a year. They cranked out pilot after pilot, trying to get lucky as they previously had done. They had a live-action sitcom on UPN from 2003 to 2004 called The Mullets, but no cigar. Cancelled again. In 2009, the partners were set to serve as executive producers on the then new Fox adult animation Sit Down, Shut Up. However, Bill Oakley severed his involvement with the show due to a contract dispute between the staff and Sony Pictures. This was the same time as the Writers Guild for America was on strike, so contractual negotiations were a fierce battlefield. The peculiar thing is Josh Weinstein remained on the Sit Down and Shut Up staff. This would end the streak of Oakley and Weinstein working together. And Jimmy's appeared to have been rustled, since for the next few years, Bill would be pitching around pilots solo. He would catch a break in 2010, getting brought on to write for the Cleveland Show and Regular Show. I don't think I've said the word show enough in this video. In 2012, he was brought in to write for the sketch comedy show Portlandia as well. Josh, on the other hand, didn't stay with Sit Down and Shut Up for long, because it didn't last long. Glad that's the reason they fought. Worth it! In 2010, Weinstein was brought back to work on the revival of Futurama. In 2013, he created the show Strange Hill High, which was a British children's show. He also got writing work on Gravity Falls, The Awesomes, and Danger Mouse. Our gruesome twosome did get back together in 2018, though, as writers and executive producers for, are you shocked to hear it's another Matt Groening show? That's the last we've heard of Josh Weinstein. And as for Bill Oakley, he's been writing on Regular Show's spiritual successor Close Enough on HBO Max, as well as giving funny fast food reviews on Instagram at @ThatBillOakley. Go see who will win the coveted Steamy Award for Best Fast Food Sandwich this year, and sign up to join his new Steamed Ham Society. Ooh. That's about it for Mission Hill. Or is it? For how much of a passion project Mission Hill obviously was to its two creators, it's no surprise that they've tried multiple times to have it rise like a phoenix. No company has stepped up to bear that load, though. Warner Brothers, the parent company of the WB, still has those 5 unproduced episodes of Mission Hill and can sell them off at any time. The rights could be purchased outright, and the show could keep chugging on like it was still 1999. The show's track record just doesn't look good to investors, and all those people care about is the money. Not character arcs or inventive animation. No one really wants to take a risk on a show anymore, especially now in the days of reboots and rehashes and whatevers, refried beans, remakes. Executives are probably thinking to themselves, why reboot this show when it wasn't even successful then? We could reboot a successful show. Because it was the WB's fault, damn it! Man, why couldn't the show have been on MTV instead?
I'm not MTV material. Hell, I'm barely WB material.
That wouldn't have worked either. The animated shows on MTV at the time, like Beavis and Butthead or Daria, had minimalistic animation. Don't get me wrong, the creative awesomeness that is Mike Judge made it work. I'm a fan of both of those shows. It's just not enough for Mission Hill to get by and still be their vision. Alas, their vision's just too pricey. There was even discussion of Mission Hill actually being continued as a comic book series, but it appears that this endeavor would also be too expensive for anyone to pick up. At least that's what the millionaires say. They can't afford it. Now, there is one last twinkle of hope for a future in Mission Hill, and that lies with Gus and Wally. In 2020, Bill Oakley announced that he was pitching around a Mission Hill spin-off tentatively titled Gus and Wally. This may seem like an unusual focus for the spin-off. Why not Jim, or Posey, or Republican Vampire?
I follow Marilyn Manson, but I obey Rush Limbaugh. I hear him on the radio and I just go.
This guy needs to replace Tucker Carlson. In all seriousness, it's been over 20 years since Mission Hill, and people write from their own experiences. Being older now, the creators probably see themselves as these older characters. Not that Gus and Wally don't rightfully merit their own spin-off regardless. Their shtick of constantly arguing was utilized more imaginatively than you'd expect, which makes them have hilarious B or C plots.
Covering the knife with a hat doesn't solve your problem.
Hat, knife, knife, knife. Can't you talk about something else?
But it is affecting my life.
Well, you're stuck with it. Unless you want to go out and find the guy without a knife in his head. In which case, good luck.
But the pinnacle of Gus and Wally, no, the pinnacle, creme de la creme, masterpiece moment of the entirety of Mission Hill comes in the final episode produced. Plan 9 from Mission Hill, or I Married a Gay Man from Outer Space. We're going into spoiler territory for the final episode of Mission Hill now. Plan 9 from Mission Hill sees Kevin discovering an X-rated movie theater in his city. He goes inside to investigate, but learns that it's just a classic cinema theater. The X rating was just given out to a lot of films in the 50s that would be considered PG now. He's told this by his neighbor Wally, who works there as a projectionist. Kevin, being the nerd that he is, becomes enamored with the old movies, thus spawning a friendship between Kevin and Wally we hadn't seen before. The plot thickens when an obscure film,
The Man from Pluto,
is announced, and the leading man looks like Gus. Wally is noticeably shaken, but the dramatic irony leaves Kevin unaware. As it would turn out, Wally was an up-and-coming film director back in the 1950s, and this was one of his pictures. So, wanting to help his friend's film get some attention, Kevin advertises the movie all over Cosmopolis.
Hey, Wally, they found our movie! Ain't that great?
Thanks to Kevin's eager ad campaign, mixed with the lecherous misconstruing that The Man from Pluto would be an X-rated film, the theater would be packed on show night. But they don't get an adult movie, they get a hilariously bad B-movie.
I will blast yous all! But first, I will fly to Washington to talk to your leaders!
The Man from Pluto is meant to be a dramatic sci-fi horror, but it is objectively shoddy and laughable, and the audience isn't hiding this fact. Gus is befuddled by the reaction. Wally insists they leave before it's over. Kevin chases after the couple, but Wally, not Gus, yells at Kevin. He berates Kevin for not realizing that there might have been a reason Wally didn't mention this movie before.
Did you ever wonder why I didn't want to talk about the movie? No, you had to humiliate me in front of a crowd.
I think this is a wonderful emotional peak for the show because not only is Wally insulting Kevin's intelligence here, which is the trait Kevin values the most in himself, but Wally is also raising his voice to Kevin. We've seen Wally yell, yes, but always at Gus, his lover. When it comes to other people, Wally tends to be meek and mild. I really felt that, oh no, I effed up feeling in the pit of my stomach for Kevin. The next day, things have cooled off. Kevin visits Wally to apologize, but Wally admits he knows that the kid had positive intentions. Wally decides to spill the tea on what happened with the man from Pluto. Wally was a super talented director back in the day. He was slated to be a big name with his next movie, a picture about a man who invades from space. But during production, Wally would meet the then crew hand, Gus, and the two would fall in love immediately. As a gift to the new man, Wally would promote him to playing one of the roles in his movie, the lead role. This would subsequently cause most of the other decent cast and crew members to quit as well. Wally would have to accept any cast and crew he could get after that. The movie would get made, but be a waste of money, forgotten by time. Wally and Gus left Hollywood forever and used the money they had to purchase a diner, which brings us to where we are now. Wally cringes from retelling the story, having to relive his biggest shame. But that shouldn't be his biggest shame. And Kevin sees this too. Every decision Wally made at the detriment to his career was for the betterment of the one he loved. Gus may not have been an award-winning actor, but he had an unforgettable time being the lead role and working with the man he loved. That's why Gus was so excited when he heard the movie had been found. The memories for Gus are positive. And the positivity should be there for Wally as well, since that was the time he fell in love for the rest of his life. That should overshadow one bad film that no one aside from Gus and Wally even remembers. Sure, people know of the film now, but a single failed creative effort doesn't define anyone, because it's not about the outcome, but the journey and those you meet along the way to that outcome. This episode really resonated with me. While we might not achieve our lifelong ultimate dream, it won't matter if we can create a beautiful reality with the people we love. I Married a Gay Man from Outer Space isn't the most joke-filled episode of Mission Hill. In fact, it's probably the one with the least amount of punchlines, but at the risk of sounding like a 90s cliche, it's got the most heart. Honestly, I bawled my eyes out watching this episode. I even teared up again when writing my little synopsis for the episode. Bill Oakley has ensured that the Gus and Wally spin-off show would remain in the world of Mission Hill, and that if you liked Mission Hill, especially the final episode, you'll like Gus and Wally. Obviously, I would love for Gus and Wally to be made, but hey!
People in hell want ice water.
Doesn't matter what I think, though. I'm just some internet schlub. It matters what the big, rich business schlubs think. And apparently they think that Gus and Wally as characters are too old for their audience's demographic.
We've already had 3 rejections from 3 of the streaming services, all who said exactly the same thing. That the characters are too old for their demographic. These characters are Generation X. Because this is a period piece now, they want to attract teenagers to watch the show. They don't want to attract 40-year-olds to watch the show.
Which is just exasperating to hear. What do you mean they're too old? That's archaic thinking. By that logic, Rick and Morty is a show made for little boys and old grandpas. Powerpuff Girls was made solely for kindergarten girls, and Stranger Things, none of you better be driving age watching that show. Bikes only. I am nowhere near Gus and Wally's age, yet I openly wept at the emotional whirlwind that this final episode of Mission Hill took me on. Bullshit, too old for their demographic. And I thought everyone used streaming services. When did they become age-gated? Just talking about all this makes me livid. And if you're at least a little bit upset about this as I am, maybe you can try to help me do something about it. Maybe if us Mission Hill fans speak up over social media, we can show these executives that there is an interest for the show in a younger age demographic. So please, use hashtag Gus and Wally and tag HBO Max, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and any other streaming services that you use, and tell them that you want to see Gus and Wally. Let's bombard them and prove that this show does have an audience outside of 60-year-old men. Perhaps then we can have more tales told in the vibrant, sincere, and ahead-of-the-curve universe of Mission Hill. And if not...
Everybody hurts. Sometimes.
And everybody cries.
And everybody hurts.
Sometimes. And everybody hurts. Sometimes. So hold on.
Outro time! Didn't script the outro. Thanks for watching this video, everybody. It was a ton of work writing this script. I'm sorry this video has taken me so long, but I really hope it was worth the wait. And big thank you to creator Bill Oakley for reaching out to me and even giving me an interview. I'm going to be posting that video simultaneously with this, so hopefully that should be up around now. He reached back to me over Instagram, we talked a bit, I sent him some chips in the mail, because he does like an Instagram review thing, remember we mentioned it. So don't forget to go check that out, at that Bill Oakley. And thank you, Ren, for sponsoring this video. Thank you to Tiger Hustle for the really interesting Mission Hill future art. Okay, I can't really think of anything else to say. Wait till your father gets home should be next. Maybe some other shorter videos coming up. But you know what to do. Subscribe, like, tell everyone else in your life to also do those things. And peace! Hashtag Gus and Wally.
Life's so short, don't you